Yeti wasn't able to settle and be bored, and that could be for a number of reasons. A lot of times it has to do with the dog being overstimulated at home and just entertained a little bit too much by people, dogs, or kids. Unless they're in the crate, that's usually the only time they can be calm. And you do have to practice this outside a crate with many puppies. Here, though, I think it also has to do with Yeti is a very nervous and very curious dog. And so that combination is making it impossible for him to just stand and hang out at this point. But honestly, the puppies pick this up so quickly, and in his own home, he'll pick it up much faster as well. Also, when you're practicing just calmly hanging out with your dog, they're not allowed to sniff you directly, meaning putting their nose on you physically. So that's why you've seen me bump him off a few times and use the leash to just get a little space, because they want something from you, and they're confused why they're not getting it if they're used to getting something from you. And then they get bored and they sniff somewhere else, and you just use leash pressure. That's it. There's no correcting here. You're just using leash guidance, pressure on the leash, gentle too. There's no jerking. It is a slow pressure on and off to counteract wherever the dog wants to go. And don't look at the dog directly, because that's communication. They're expecting you to tell them to do something or feedback in the way of reward. And so you can say no and address the dog if you need to, but then you turn your head and look away. Now, because this was too hard for this puppy, no big deal. We would just start with place, and teaching place will help immensely with just teaching the dog to settle in one spot. And then with a few days, we could transfer back to the floor, and he'd probably be great at it. It's just something that has to be practiced daily like anything else. But it is a really crucial element to training dogs and puppies that often gets overlooked because it's boring. Now, what you see me doing now is just normal turns, and that's because he was coming all the way to my knee and taking food, no problem. And so I just started doing boring turns because he's staring at me like glue, spinning around. And once you just do some boring normal turns, it can make them, more distracted. The reason I gave a piece of food there is because there was a noise from behind the fence. Or from behind that barrier. So I'm constantly mixing up doing the rock back or step back and feed, click and feed, versus normal turns based off of what my surroundings are giving me. And here I'm just trying to be a little more strict, keeping him on the left side. I wasn't as strict in the beginning. He was kind of all over the place, and I was just counteracting wherever he went. And so now that he's calmer and more focused, I just slowly start asking for more. And because he's so food motivated, he's doing really good. And I just tried bumping into him. I didn't know if it would work, if he would just be pushy and push me again to curve around me demanding food, or if he'd be overly sensitive because he doesn't know me very well yet. He was not overly sensitive at all. As you can tell, it worked very well, that knee bump. So you can go back and watch that again. Try that with your own puppy. Just because your puppy is nervous of things does not mean they are a nervous dog, like in general. He's actually has a lot of pushy confidence about him. I would say even tries to be dominant, but yet has a real insecurity and need to prove and a need to prove himself constantly with new people and dogs. So basically, we're just doing everything we can to make training more about the human, the owner, the handler, and the dog, whoever is holding the leash, rather than the environment. That is how you build control and confidence.